Hello.
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 Hi, Margaret. How are you? Oh, you're still muted. Bless you.
Okay, I'm done sneezing. Chris will be here in a moment. He was socializing for a second. Ooh. So just to kind of go back over things, like we have everybody started out like muted, and so if you're new, I'm not going to unmute you until you sort of identify yourself. So yeah, just to go through procedures and everything. So
Hi there.
Hi, Ian. Hi, Dan.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
hello.
There it is. If Steven didn't have a couple of Zooms. I feel like you're the director of the movie The Room. I don't know if you've seen that flick.
Steven?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
It's a really strange feature of the external camera that it keeps trying to figure out the best shot.
I think you got to be honest with yourself, Steven. You're an auteur filmmaker.
Who was the voice on the latest Whittaker Tales? Is that Malcolm X?
I haven't seen number 32 yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It didn't mention at the end or at the beginning.
Margaret, if you make a request to Annika, she can unmute you.
Which Margaret are we looking at? Did I not know? Margaret, that Margaret. Okay. Sorry. It's like really weird the way that it has it set. Okay.
So if I mute myself again, I can't unmute myself, can I?
I'm not sure. I think so. But that's just kind of the safeguard that we have to work with right now. Because of one of the last times where we had somebody bombing us.
Yeah, I was here.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm trying to still sort of figure it out.
It's all good.
Hey, Brad.
You unmuted me once already, and then I muted myself because I was trying to eat something because I just ran in the door, and I didn't want to,
Yeah,
and then it would not let me unmute myself again. So
that makes sense. So if anybody wants to be unmuted in the chat, definitely say so. Otherwise, I've just kind of got to figure it out as we go along. We've got somebody who called in. I'm going to unmute them, and hopefully they're not going to bomb us. Because
That's probably
Wow.
probably who?
Cindy, our
911
speaker for tonight.
I believe
dispatcher.
Cindy Harper
We've
has
got
already
Cindy
joined us.
Harper, and I just
Okay.
unmuted her. But then we've got somebody who actually called in with the phone number. And so it doesn't give me the option to chat with this person, which is normally what I'd do. So I will just unmute and, like I said, hope for the best because I don't know what else to do to include them. And I have no way to identify them. So, but we want to include everybody that doesn't have internet access, or who does. So.
Hi, everyone. Did you tell them that you have to identify yourself, unfortunately?
Yeah. I mean, yes. And I realized that it's really hard. Somebody called in, and I was just saying it's really hard for me because I can't chat with them. So I'm hoping that they are going to be somebody that doesn't.
Why can't you chat with them?
Because they're called.
Can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Landon. I live in the Whitaker community. I was just
Perfect.
calling in to just kind of see what was going on.
Yay!
I'm the person that called in.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
Yes,
identifying.
nobody trying to do anything bad.
Yeah, we had somebody that bombed us, Zoom bombed us, and it was just really negative.
We never want it to happen
We
again.
never want it to happen again.
No, that sucks. No, only positive vibes here, so don't worry.
Cool. Well, thank you for being here. Cheers.
Yes, of course. Thank you guys.
And
Yeah.
again, if anybody is unmuted now or is muted now and wants to be unmuted, please hit me up in the chat and I will do my best to facilitate that as quickly as I can. It's just sort of safety precaution to make sure that we don't have somebody coming in and saying really horrible things to our group that we all have to listen to, because that's not where we want to be.
Okay, but other than that, yay! I'm glad to see all your faces and hear some new voices. And Cindy, thank you for joining us tonight. I really do appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Jennifer Hoover, hello.
Susan just joined. All right.
Cheryl?
Cheryl, do you know who Cheryl is? Cheryl Conley.
KTs.
Do we know who KT is? We've got a lot of people joining tonight. This is exciting.
Yeah, it is good.
No.
Anon should be joining pretty soon.
Yeah,
There
he's
it is.
Okay, I'm just gonna get these people.
Right in.
And I'll once again we'll say this again because we just had a new person join via phone. We're kind of blocking people or putting them on mute for now because we had somebody Zoom bomb us a while ago. So if you want to join, please hit me up in the chat and just let me know who you are, and we will confirm you and unmute you. For the person who just joined on call, I will unmute you in a second, and hopefully you're not gonna be negative to us. We'll just kind of see how that goes. And yeah, this chat is really the best way to communicate, especially if you're on mute and you need to be unmuted, because that's really how I can see and how I can confirm everybody. It's the quickest way with so many people joining.
What time is it? 7, 8? We'll give it maybe a couple more minutes because we have a few more people than usual, and then we don't have to continue the speech that Annika continues to make.
And just for the record, since I unmuted you, 541-510-0398. Would you please just let us know who you are and join the group?
Sure. Yeah. So this is the call-in from that number. Name's Keith Butcher. I live on Jefferson, north of First.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you
Been
for
around here a while.
Yeah, welcome.
But this is one of my first meetings. Yep.
Yay, thank you very much.
and thank you guys for putting up with our sort of rigorous like entry requirements, because we did get Zoom bombed the other day, and it was so stressful and so horrific that we just don't want to do that again. So these are kind of our precautions. I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're doing the best we can.
All right, so it's about 7:10. Welcome everyone. This is our weekly Whitaker Community Council meeting. I'm really happy that we have so many people here. We have a few things that we wanted to talk about tonight, but before we start, is there anything that anyone wanted to chat about, or they had a comment in this open period that will start right now? Jennifer? Can you unmute everyone?
Okay.
Okay, hold on, Jennifer.
All right, I did ask to unmute, but I will allow people. Okay, so there you go. Jennifer,
Yes.
did you want to say something?
Oh, you didn't hear me. Okay.
No, I'm sorry, Jennifer.
So, how do I get you to send me a link? I'm trying to figure the Zoom out.
Okay, well, what we can do is I'll talk to you after this. Typically what we have is it posted on the Whitaker Community Council page.
But whatever you did today is going to work for
Yeah.
the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, we use the same thing, but I would be happy after the meeting to get with you to show you exactly how to do it.
On Zoom?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, of course, of course.
So how many people are here? I'm trying to...
About 17, 18, 19.
So there's this little arrow that says, you know, I don't know what to do. I'm afraid to do anything. I can see
It's okay.
What I see is you in the middle.
Oh, you need to adjust how to view the participants. Okay, well, Jennifer, like I said, I'll get with you with that, but maybe Annika can send you a text in the messages.
Maybe we should have a Zoom 101. How to do Zoom
Yeah, at some
meeting.
point we will have a Zoom 101.
That would be great.
Katie, do you have something? Unmute everyone, babe.
I just set it up and I just sent a message to the group. Since
There, I'm okay. I was just going to say, for everyone, they should know that you should try to go to gallery view.
That's
it's not in the little line at the top, but there's should be a little circle that says gallery view. And then there's so many of us, you can't see all of us at once, but you can see 9 at a time, unless you have a computer.
Thank you, Katie.
Mm-hmm. I've been doing this once a week with my 83-year-old sister, and every week we have to teach her how to do it all over again. We're just like,
oh.
But, so I'm learning to be patient.
Yeah. Well, luckily I have Annika that takes care of all of this. So thankfully.
Takes care of all the patients.
Oh yeah, and the patients. No. So, like I said, we're still in an open period. If anyone had any comments or anything that they just wanted to talk about, please feel free and unmute yourselves.
Yes, since everybody in here I've now verified, I've allowed it to. You guys can all unmute yourselves. If you need help, I can help you. Just send me a message
Or raise your hand.
Or raise your hand. But otherwise, you now have permission to unmute yourself. So.
Oh, so you're in control of that.
I'm in control of that because it's just a matter of switching the privacy settings.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think what we'll do first, since we have Cindy Harper, who is with Emergency Services here, to take some questions or maybe give us some pointers. I was thinking, unless anyone had any objections, having her go first. Is that okay with you, Cindy?
That's perfect.
Okay. And one thing I just want to remember is Cindy is our ally in relaying the messages to the appropriate people, such as Whitebird and EPD. So let's be as responsible and courteous as we possibly can, because her extending herself to us is going to give us what we need, maybe in a time of need, better information so that we could get quicker services. Because that's, I think, what we're all after, is to have response times increased also. Cindy, I guess that was a good introduction, baby.
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
So my name is Cindy Harper, and I'm the operations manager for Central Lane 911. I'm here with Pam Collette, who is the director of the 911 Center. I'll do a little bit of an intro to what the 911 Center is here, who we serve, and the type of things we do, because I know some of you are newer to the group. So Central Lane 911 is a division of the Eugene Police Department. We are the largest of 3 911 centers in Lane County, and we answer 911% of Lane County. We dispatch fire and emergency medical services for 12 different agencies. And we dispatch, the only law enforcement agency we dispatch is the Eugene Police Department. However, we answer 911 calls for 7 other law enforcement agencies. We also answer all the non-emergency lines for Eugene Police, and we answer all of the calls for Cahoots, and we dispatch Cahoots. So the same people that are answering the 911 lines also answer the non-emergency lines. So if you call on a non-emergency line and you get put on hold for a 911, that's why. It's the same person that's taking those calls. And we have anywhere from, normal staffing is anywhere from 2 to 4 call takers at a time. So if it's, and we take close to 1,200 calls a day. So if you get put on hold or if you have to wait on a non-emergency line, that's why. We are staffed 24/7 with call takers, with dispatchers and fire EMS dispatchers, and we always have a supervisor on duty. Our staffing levels can vary based on the time of day, day of week, anticipated activity. We also upstaff for major events or weather activity. If we're expecting a snowstorm, we'll have extra staff in because our phone lines get kind of crazy. All of our communication specialists have completed a rigorous selection process and have gone through our in-house training program and a training program at the state Public Safety Training Academy. It's a 3-week program for call takers. So the people that we hire, is the group interested in kind of what we look for when we're hiring? Or is that?
I mean, are we looking at like employing people from Whitaker?
No,
Are we more
no,
interested
like
in,
the type of people maybe that they're looking for. I
Okay.
mean, as a
You want
group.
to know who works, the type of people who work here?
Yeah.
So I'll just tell you a little bit about it. So we have, some of our people have backgrounds in food service, banking, they're recent college graduates. Some are from the healthcare field, general office work, bookkeeping, retail, security companies. We look for people who have good attention to detail, excellent judgment and decision-making, the ability to quickly evaluate a situation and take appropriate action, ability to hear information from several sources at the same time, and talk or listen while typing and reading. They must have effective communication skills. They'd be able to talk with the community, their coworkers, their responders, and they must have a concern for our community and others. So that's pretty important to us. So on every 911 call, the first thing that the call taker is going to ask is the address of the emergency, and they'll likely ask the caller to repeat it for verification. So if you're calling from a cell phone, we don't know exactly where you are. We have GPS coordinates, and that's all we get. sometimes we only have the direction of the cell phone tower that your call is coming from. If you're calling from a landline in your home, we likely have your address, and if it matches what you tell us, we won't ask you to verify. The other thing we'll ask is for the phone number, so in case we get disconnected, we'll make sure we have a good phone number to reach you back. When we talk about addresses, not everything happens at a specific address. So if it's something that's happening in the park, if you tell us the park, we can use that as a landmark and then tell us where in the park it is. Intersections work well for us. And if you're calling about something that you only have the closest intersection, if you can tell us kind of the direction from the intersection and how far from the intersection, in terms of like a half block or 100 feet or whatever, that's good. The call taker is also going to ask for, they'll say tell me exactly what's happening. And that helps them to know whether they need to switch to medical protocols, because we have specific medical protocols that they have to follow verbatim to make sure that we get the best resource to you as quickly as possible, and also to provide instructions. We provide CPR instructions. We can provide choking instructions, bleeding control, childbirth. There are many instructions that we have that can help you. That also lets us know, it's kind of a different mode. We don't have specific protocols that we read verbatim for fire calls or for police calls, but we do have, it's best to let us ask the questions and direct the flow of information, because there's a specific order that we have to enter the information in our system. So that's most helpful and can help us to process the call as quickly as possible.
And I think that's most helpful for all of us also. Because I'm sorry to interject, I think a lot of times, say if I had an emergency call, I'm in kind of a heightened state of awareness, and it would be nice to know exactly, how you go through the order, so that, we don't have any confusion, nor do I waste any more time, because sometimes some of these are actual emergencies. And
so are we able to backtrack and ask a question about like hiring people?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Cindy, there was one question on your screening process for hiring. Do you do a psych evaluation to make sure they're not biased?
We actually do a psychological evaluation. So our process includes there's skills-based testing. Then we have an interview. Then we do a background, it's like a full background investigation that is done by we have a background investigation team at the police department that does them. We also have a psychologist. So if they pass the background, then they go to the medical portion of the process, which psychological evaluation is considered medical. So they do psychological testing, which is about 5 hours of written testing. And they also have a one-on-one with a psychologist. The background also, there's a lot of questions about bias and prejudice in the background. Okay. So it's covered in the background as well. So those background evaluations are reviewed by, I review them, Pam reviews them, and there's another manager or two typically who review those as well, along with the Human Resources Department from the City of Eugene. So they make sure that we make our decisions, that we're following employment law when we make our decisions, and that we're not excluding anyone for any reason that's not lawful, and that we're also not hiring someone that we shouldn't be hiring.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions about hiring?
Yeah, Margaret?
Yeah, I just want to clarify a couple of things. So you're from the largest 911 center in town.
Yes.
And there are 3, you said?
Yes. So
and in your facility there's only 2 to 4 operators available at a time, depending on the time of day. So
yes.
How many are there total for the whole county, and with you and the other 2 facilities?
So we have more than that are working at a time. That's just how many are answering phones. We have a couple of police dispatchers and a couple of fire dispatchers and someone who is a relief person who relieves.
Right, you're talking about 911 dispatchers though, right?
Right.
Right, I get that. I understand how that works. So, but between the three, is that between the three facilities or just in yours alone?
That's in ours alone.
So how many within the three facilities for the whole county?
I don't know exactly how many that South Lane and Cottage Grove and the West Lane and Florence have, but I believe they probably just have one person answering the phone.
Okay, so what your facility covers is everything but Florence and whatever Mapleton and that area is, and then South Lane, Lorraine, that area, Cottage Grove.
Right. We actually cover Lorraine, but South Lane covers Cottage Grove, and then some of the outlying areas down there, Dorena area.
Okay, and so when you have someone that's new, let's say, I mean, I understand a little bit about 911 dispatchers, and it's a really high stress job. It is not a job that I would want to do myself. It takes a lot to do it. It's extremely high stress. It's very busy. There's a lot of pressure there. So when you have someone that's relatively new on the phone, do you have a supervisor with them there, or do you just go through 2 weeks of training and then you put them on the phone?
So our in-house training academy is 6 weeks. That time of where we have our in-house classroom training, they also spend some time sitting on the operations floor with a trainer. They have the opportunity to answer maybe a few calls just to kind of get their feet wet, but they have somebody who's plugged in with them at the same console and who's probably doing the typing while they're maybe doing the talking. And then at the end of that 6-week classroom experience, they work one-on-one with a trainer, and it can be 8 weeks. It's typically a minimum of 8 weeks. Just had somebody complete their training. They took 12 weeks, and that's fine. So if it takes 12 weeks or 16 weeks, that's how long they have it. While they're the first month that they're done training, we monitor, once they're working independently, we monitor them very closely, and they spend 1 day each week back with that original coach, just so that the coach listens to all of their calls and can fine-tune their performance and make sure that they're not doing something wrong. We also have follow-up training academies, so they spend some time back in the classroom again once they're done with their training. So
sure, it's got to be a continuous thing. I get that.
And then they go somewhere in that hopefully in that first 6 or 8 months, they go to the state for 3 weeks for that additional training. And that's a really great experience. They go with people from all over the state, and they get some other basics, some scenario-based training and some of those other things. But then we have ongoing training. Go ahead, Cliff.
Oh, I was going to ask if you answer the 911 calls, do you answer also the local police calls? The 682-5111, or is it another group of dispatchers?
It's the same people that answer the 682-5111 also answer 911. So if you're calling 5111 and you have to wait for a while, it could be because the 911 lines are busy.
Oh, it's the same people though, is what I'm.
Yes, it is.
Just four. Okay.
Okay, so I have another question, Cindy. So I know that there's some, that they're looking at money to hire new officers and do all of that. And the truth is that, 4 people does not seem a lot of, it doesn't seem like a lot of people to be covering 911 emergency and non-emergency calls for police and fire. And do you take the sheriff's calls as well?
We answer the 911 calls for the sheriff, and then we transfer them as soon as we
to the sheriffs, right? Mm-hmm. So I know they're looking at hiring a bunch of new officers. Are they looking at hiring new 911 dispatchers and adding people to your load as well with that?
Yes, they are. That's actually part of the community safety initiative.
All right. And how many are they looking at hiring? Do you know?
5.5 total full-time employees.
5.5 more?
5.5 more. So let me.
So you'd be at about approximately 9 to 10.
Well, it's total staffing, so that wouldn't be adding that many to a shift. But I want to clarify something too, that our relief person, when they're not relieving other dispatch, when they're not relieving another position, they also answer phones. And if the phone lines are really ringing, the 911 lines say we have more calls than we have people to answer them quickly, then the supervisors also will answer phone lines. So there are times where you've got 6 or 8 people working. So, and a lot of times there are times when there are no calls coming in. So it's kind of one of those things, if we could throttle our calls throughout the 24-hour period, it would be perfect, but we can't. So we do up staff during those hours that we expect are going to be busy, like from noon until 9 p.m. We know that's going to be a busier time of day. So that's why we have 4 people answering phones then instead of 2 or 3. But we also, from 3 to 7 in the morning, that most of the time there's not much that's happening. So 2 is fine. And there might only be a handful of calls in that 4-hour time period. So we have to have people here, but we also don't want to, it would probably be too much to have 4 people working then, even though a couple of times a year we might need 4 people working then. But that would, a few.
So tell me, if you were me and you were calling 911 and there was someone in your yard, let's say, and they were throwing your stuff out on the street and all the neighbors were out on the street and everyone was calling 911 at the same time, what keywords would you use to heighten the urgency to the 911 dispatcher that we really need an officer here today?
So I would say
right now.
There's a disorderly person throwing things around. Are you speaking of the specific call like 3 years ago?
No, I'm speaking of a specific call like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
And I called and the girl was right in my face and came on my property and the officer told me to go inside. And I said, and let her just throw my stuff all over my yard? She said, yes. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And she hung
So we're
up.
going to try to tell you what we can to help you remain safe, because we also know that it doesn't matter how many people we have working in the 911 center, the number of police officers that are working on patrol, if they're all tied up on other calls and we don't have anybody available, then we can broadcast it out as the dispatcher can broadcast that out, let the watch commander know. We'll try to get people to clear from other calls, but they may not be in a position that they can leave the call they're on. So it is frustrating. And so the call taker is going to try to give you the best advice they can so that you can remain safe, because they know that we don't have anybody anywhere near your call or even anybody that's available to send.
So you're telling me that there are times when no matter what the urgency is or no matter what's happening, there's not an available police officer to come and take care of it.
That is what I'm telling you. But we also have tools that we can broadcast out when we have something like that. We'll broadcast it to the officers and ask for any unit that can clear to respond.
I mean, there's not a whole lot I can say to that, you know? I mean,
well, it's important to make it as clear and make the threat that you're experiencing as clear as possible to the call taker. And they do let the watch commander know. Go ahead. You're muted.
You're muted.
I was just going to ask, when we do make a call, where is it that we could go to see that the call was logged? Do you know?
There is a public log, and you know what? I'm sorry, I'm not prepared with that.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure, like, there was a way that we could access, such as a call that was logged, maybe the level that it was at, and all of that information.
So there is a public log that's available, and are you Chris that emailed me earlier?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, so Chris, I will email you directions or how to get that log.
Okay, cool. And I'll put that out for everyone, just so,
Okay.
you know, when you feel as if you've been heard by knowing that this call is logged, because one of the things that I think is most important is the data-driven policing. And I think, you know, we've talked about like having access to this data. So I think that would go a long way with people in the neighborhood to know that, you know, when they've called, it has been logged.
So
It's not a matter of public record.
Well, I'm sure it is. I'm just wondering where it is, and then
it is
right.
it
But
is-
she's not willing to. You'll give it to him in private. I'm just curious, and
no,
I don't mean to
send it to all of us. Just she doesn't have it right now. I'm speaking for you.
Okay.
I don't, because I don't use that public log because I have access to our internal information. I don't use it, so I don't know where to find it off the top of my head. But because I have Chris's email address, I'll send it to him and he can distribute it. So a couple things to know about the public log. A current active call doesn't appear on the public log. And then there's certain types of other calls that don't, just for privacy, that don't appear. So certain types of crimes don't appear just because we don't, just to protect the victims of those crimes, we don't want those to be on the log. And then things like patrol checks that are seniors on patrol do those vacation checks, those don't appear either. Or if they do, they don't appear with an address because we don't want people to know that somebody's on vacation.
Right.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So
Cindy?
Okay.
Cindy,
Yes,
this
go
is
ahead.
Margaret Mazzata. The example you gave me today of a call where you were tied up and you couldn't send officers to other calls or it was difficult, I think maybe an example like that might be helpful for folks to get an idea of when we're kind of at max capacity.
So sometimes we'll have a situation that's maybe before you call in because the person's in your face in your driveway throwing things into the street. So right before you've called in with that call, we've received a call with someone screaming. We can't get any information from them at all. So we have the 3 or 4 officers that we have available that aren't already on another call or at the jail lodging someone or something else, going lights and sirens to that one person's call. And until we find out what that situation is, the specific call I'm talking about, I don't want to go into too much detail, but a horrific tragedy for someone. And because we don't know what it is until we get there, and the way the call came in, people had to go. And I actually had the opportunity to review all of the calls that came in from the Whitaker neighborhood. And I was impressed by the professionalism of the call takers that were answering those phone calls and how they switched from that horribly traumatic call back to the one with the disorderly person in the neighborhood that was very frustrating. I felt like they were very empathetic to the needs of all of the callers. And I know it was incredibly frustrating to them to not be able to get someone to you right away. And also certainly to the residents in the neighborhood who were experiencing that. So I saw Chris wanted to say something?
Oh, yeah. I have a question. Do you feel that there's any barricades within the protocol from EPD to you and the response that could be eliminated to provide better service to our community? Are there ways that we could get people out to where they need to be?
I really the only thing that we could do differently would be to have better staffing to be able to, I don't know, it would be cleaning up the reporting processes so that it didn't take as long for reports to be completed, so that officers would have more time free to be on the street to respond to calls. So really, aside from having more resources, I don't know what it would be.
I mean, but as far as like the protocol from the initial 911 call to the response of officers, I mean, I know there's a chain of directives where people talk to one another, and you're like, this person needs to be here and there. I mean, is there a way that that could be eased up to where people could be, there should be more like response, you know what I mean? Like to where you can actually get a police officer to an actual emergency when it's happening versus tying up 3 officers for one guy who's just spouting out and throwing shoes around the neighborhood versus a violent crime. I don't know.
So that's something that the police department, the police department in general, and we, the communication center doesn't really have anything to, we don't really have any control over that or any, I mean, we can give input on how decisions are made about deployment, but that's about what we can do. So we have the resources that are available for us to dispatch, and the dispatchers are pretty good about getting those calls out as quickly as they can. They don't like to see an urgent call sitting on their dispatch screen and not have it go out. So they get them dispatched as quickly as they can. So that's all I'm able to address really, is that.
Right. Do you feel that there's an adequate response from caller to cahoots or police dispatch in Lane County?
I don't know that
with your resources, I mean, do you think that we're doing a good job, or do you think we could do better?
I always want to think we can do better. I mean, I always think there's room for improvement. We were strong advocates for additional cahoots resources. When I first started working here, we had 1 cahoots van working 12 hours a day. And now we have 3 cahoots vans that we have overlap, and we have 24-hour coverage. And I think that is great. People still have to wait for cahoots. It's
right. We need 5 vans.
Well, it's like, well, if you build it, they will come. So, Chris, you're muted on.
I'm so sorry. I was going to say, Ian had a question. He was wanting to ask also.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, my name's Ian. I'm a WCC board member. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. My question's about aggregate data. So you mentioned you were able to see neighborhood level data. I was wondering if that was kind of geographically bound, or you analyze it via zip code, and if there was any way that we could see the aggregate data. So not the disaggregated data where it would be kind of caller or the actual recordings of the calls themselves, but maybe just kind of the quantitative data regarding number of calls, time of day, maybe even as discrete as kind of like the subject of the call?
So I don't have, I mean, I have access to that. I don't run those statistics, and most of them are run by beats, by the patrol beat. They can also set up different geofences to run data by specific, even more specific than that. Yeah, crime analysis, and I can ask them what, actually, if I could, I'll check with crime analysis and see what they can do. And I'm not certain what's available on our public website for the Eugene Police Department. But
this is Pam. Hi. So what kind of stats exactly would you like? Like maybe a week's worth, a month? And are you talking about 24/7 types of, you said maybe calls with locations or like neighborhoods? Is that
or
what
how
you're
many
looking for?
calls in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Right.
I think we just need a tiny bit more information, and we'll
Sure.
get you what we can for absolutely.
Can I follow up with you via email? I want to make sure that I save time for other people's questions, but yeah.
Absolutely. And I was going to give you all my email address, and I'm just going to go ahead and type it in here right now.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And if you want to send that to me, and I'll check with our crime analysis people.
I just have one more question.
Go ahead.
I'm actually, and just so that you know, I'm on your side. I really am.
I appreciate that.
I understand the work that you do and how important it is, and what a stressful job that you're doing. And I'm quite surprised to hear that there's only 2 to 4 9 on average. I understand that the supervisors can step in and all of that, but for being a county that's our size and the amount of people, I'm surprised that there's only 2 to 4 911 operators. What I would like to know is, do you know just on average, how many officers are actually on the street at a time?
I don't have that off the top of my head. The police department has specific minimum staffing requirements, and if they are below minimums, they will hire additional officers to cover that. I can request that information.
I'm sure I can look it up. I was just curious because I was surprised at at the amount of 911 operators. And that would explain some of my questions if our officers that were actually on the beat at the time were as low as you guys are. Thank you for your time very much and for answering the questions.
You're welcome.
One thing, and this is Pam again, that I wanted to clarify though, that we could get into a little more detail is there's a lot more people in the room. There are a number of dispatchers, a number of call takers. There's at least one supervisor, if not more. And what we do in 911 centers, and I can speak to all the 911 centers in Oregon, is as the workload changes, you receive workload. So like our information channel, dispatcher would start answering phones if it gets really busy. As Cindy mentioned, the supervisor answers phones. The relief dispatcher answers phones. Our fire dispatchers, if it's quiet at fire and the phones are ringing, they will answer phones. So that's what you typically do in a non-emergency call center and a 911 center, is you are really responsive to the workload coming in. So I just wanted to add that it's not just call takers answering the phone.
Right, I get that.
Yeah.
And we do have other people. We have CAD specialists who during the daytime are working in an office. If it gets busy, we can pull them in if we have a major incident. We split up training. So for example, if we have a major windstorm that we're really not expecting and we've got 2 different people that are training at dispatch, we can split up that training so that we can add to our call taking staff, and we do that often.
So has everyone in the call center been through the same training?
Yes. Yes, not everyone is. People start out training at call taking, so not everyone is immediately trained for law enforcement dispatch or for fire dispatch, but everyone in the room is trained as a call taker and can answer 911 lines.
And the ultimate goal is that everybody's trained to do all the jobs, the fire dispatch and the law enforcement dispatch and information channel, as well as dispatching cahoots. So it's a pretty fantastic training program.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, yes, thank you. I was under the impression that about a year and a half ago or so, that the dispatch and other staff was replenished, because we were down to 2 or 3, and it was pretty hard on them. So did that not happen and solve the situation? What happened?
So probably 5 years ago, we were down to around 30 employees. And right now, as of today, we have 47 call takers and dispatchers. So that I feel like we're well staffed and at a point where we have a good number of our people who are fully trained to work all of the positions. So we've actually made some pretty incredible progress for a 911 center. It's a challenging job to learn, and it's also a hard job with long hours, and we have to be staffed overnight and everything else. So Chris, go ahead. You're muted, Chris.
Goodness, thank you. Sorry. I was wondering, in your opinion, if you had more access to different resources to free up our EPD, would it be beneficial for our city? Because what I'm thinking is our EPD
Good question.
tasked with a myriad of challenges that if we had different resources potentially that didn't include life or limb danger, would it allow them to be freed up to answer the calls that I think we're thinking are pushed down the line, you know?
Right. So I don't want to offer my opinion, but what I will say is
just, yeah, I understand completely.
The calls that we send officers to, we screen calls for safety information. So if there's any threat, if we identify any threat, we won't send cahoots alone. We won't send the fire department or the EMTs alone to any call where there's a threat to them because of what's happening with the subject of the call. We may send them to like cahoots or fire and EMS to stage at a call, and we'll send police in first to make sure the scene is safe for them to enter. So we're always going to err on the side of the responders. And cahoots they do have a lot of training, but they don't have training in defensive tactics and to be able to protect themselves should they get into physical harm. So that's the consideration that we make when we decide if it's safe for cahoots to go. And we are the ones who make that determination based on policy and training.
Cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that interpretation of that. Thank you.
So yeah, we never want to put cahoots staff at risk at all.
Exactly.
Very concerned.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I had a couple of other things that I wanted to touch on.
Please. Yeah.
So we have alerting systems that are available to us. And some of you may at some point or another have received a phone call that was the reverse 911. So it's our ability to notify the community of emergencies or the need to shelter in place. That system we've had in place since the mid-90s and had the ability to do that. Well, that only dials landline phones unless you have registered to receive those phone calls on your cell phone. And that system is really not as effective as it once was. We now have the wireless emergency alerting system, and we actually activated that recently. Some of you may have received those notifications about curfew. And so I don't really want to get into the whole curfew thing, but that's when the first time that we had the opportunity to use it. And we don't ever use those systems unless we're asked to use them. The sheriff's office uses them a lot on the coastal area for tsunami warnings and for testing the tsunami alerting system. But we do have that ability to do that here. So that particular system, the wireless emergency alerting system, is based off cell phone towers. So if you happen to fall within the range of a tower that's within the area that we sent the message, you could receive a message on that, and they appear as a text message on your cell phone if you have that option turned on your phone to receive those. We don't currently have the ability to have text to 911 locally. We expect that will happen sometime in the next few months. This will be a great tool for people who are maybe hearing or speech impaired and need to utilize that option to reach us. We're still going to ask that people dial 911 rather than using the text to 911 if it's at all possible. So, because it is quicker just to handle the phone as a voice call. Accidental calls, if you accidentally dial 911, please stay on the phone and let us know that it was an accident. I know some cell phones have that emergency call feature that's pretty easy to activate. And if you stay on the phone, then we can resolve it quicker. Otherwise, we have to call you back. And if we don't get an answer, we will maybe try to find subscriber information on a cell phone or send a police officer to the specific address to check if we have to. So that's all. Let's see. Jennifer has a question. It says.
I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the evening where there was destruction during the protests, how dispatch was prepared for it and how it worked out, and were there any lessons learned?
Are you talking about the Friday night, the first night of the protests? Where the
I don't remember the day. I just remember that I think there was one night of destruction.
So Jennifer, that night just happened, that event began right around our shift change. So we were actually able to keep a shift that was leaving, and they stayed. We had several supervisors, several managers, and we had a lot of extra people working just to keep up with that activity. But no, we were not expecting anything that night. We were expecting the large march from the federal building on Sunday, but we weren't expecting what happened on Friday night. But we were able, because we have, it happened at shift change. We also actually had people calling, some of our employees calling and asking if they were needed, people volunteering because they'd seen what was happening, and they offered to come in and help on their time off. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay, good, thank you.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay, it looks like I just sent my email address to Ian, and I'm not great with Zoom to be able to do it better, but when I send the information on the public log to Chris, I'll make sure that he has my email address to push out to everyone as well.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I really do appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate. And Cindy, I'm sorry, who was in the background?
I'm Pam Collette.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really appreciate y'all's time.
It's been our pleasure, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Good night.
Good night, y'all.
Good night. Good night.
All right. Well, that was great. I really do appreciate everyone and the way that we interacted and I mean, there's a lot that we need to know, and we also need to know who to ask and how to ask it. And I think this is a perfect conduit for us to facilitate, because we want people to be served in a way where they can get help. So I think as being members of this community, we have tons of people that sometimes they need a little Whitaker tough love and thicker skin, and you know, they just need somebody to say hi to, you know, and doesn't mean 911 every single time, or the community, I'm sorry, non-emergency number. But I'm really thankful that they came on here and they were able to talk to us. But moving right along, I was going to talk a little bit about let me just pull it up. It's a microsite for houseless individuals that I'll put it plain, no bullshit. The city is already contracted and done, but it's gonna get 6 people off of the streets. And we as a community council have done the best of our ability to try to identify what we think is hygienic housing, which we can get into at another time. This isn't exactly perfect, nor is it something that we really had a lot of planning or any say in. So me as a community member, and just like no bullshit, there's 6 people that are gonna be off the street because of this project. I think that's a win. It's not a lot of people. It's not 150 people. It's not 30 people, but it's 6. Ian, would you be able to share a screen share of the new microsites for homeless individuals? Annika is not here right now, and I'm not sure I can. This is her computer. Thank you. So, this is what I'm talking about for the microsite. It is a progression towards houselessness that we are going to, hopefully as a community, me personally, support. It's Conestoga Huts. That's going to be facilitated by community supported shelters. They have an awesome record. They are doing good. And instead of us trying to reinvent the wheel on trying to house people, it's going to happen anyway. You know, the city has already done it. So what we're trying to do is get more people housed. But the site is, go ahead. I'm sorry. But basically the site has the availability for potentially up to 20 people. Depending on in the future, if there could be funding, it might work. There's funding for 1 year. So we didn't want something to be so temporary that people were going to face houselessness again. They were going to be stressed out, and we're going to fail, and it was going to be their lives, and we're going to give up on them. So we have 1 year, and hopefully community involvement or more money from the county is going to put these in other neighborhoods. Or, Ian, is there something maybe you wanted to talk about this too? We were both at this meeting, and so is Thea, but she's not here right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, this is different from sanitary housing. The site's initially going to have 6 tents on Tuesday, the 17th, when it's going to be built. But the hope is that the site will eventually have the infrastructure to support a community kitchen, Conestoga Huts, and I think Eric's perspective is that he doesn't want to use city funding right now. He wants to solicit funding from private donations, but they would be open to getting designated funding from the city to support this at a later time if it existed. So I think that's kind of where we could come in with sanitary housing, is that we could push the city and then maybe the county to be able to dedicate funding for a different model of housing. Right now, the 10% of the payroll tax, the community safety tax, which fund the folks that we just heard from, Pam and Cindy, a portion of that funds, dawn to dusk sites that are managed by St. Vincent de Paul, as well as a couple of other homeless service initiatives. So, I think there's a broader conversation to be had, but I agree with everything you said, Chris. The city, didn't already had an idea of what they wanted to do, and kind of engaged us after the fact. But
Katie, you had a question?
Yeah, I don't think people can tell from looking what's on the screen because it's further down. Oh, there you go. That the site is actually going to be set up at the Skinner City Farm down at Skinner's View Park. There you go.
Oh, great.
All right, I thought everyone could scroll.
It wasn't working on mine. I don't know.
No, and it was. I'm on a separate screen, so forgive me.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
So Chris,
yes,
are they looking for? Is this the type of thing where they already have people to put them together and all that kind of stuff, or is this something they can little help putting them together?
No, I'll be honest with you, I'm not gonna pull any punches or be a salesman about this.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't what we had talked about. This isn't sanitary housing. This isn't what our proposal has been or is about to be. But it's people that are already in a program that have been pre-vetted, which means that they're already living in one of the city's sanctioned housing facilities which would either be car camping or a tent city or a platform tent facility, they are going to be the first 6 people. Because what's happening is they are losing their housing where they're temporarily at. Did I think that this was a great criteria for new neighbors? Not really. But, you know, it's 6 people that were going to go back onto the streets that now are going to have a place to live, and hopefully they can be our new neighbors. I mean, it's a really, really interesting time to like not be for housing people in any way, shape, or form. So what and please forgive me, any other council members, what we want to do is we want to try to house as many people as we possibly can. But our model is not exactly the same way that this one's being facilitated. We didn't have any say in any of this at all. But I thought personally, and then with the consultations of some council members, that housing people first is much more beneficial than voicing my concerns about not being a participant in the location, the people, the way it's going to be run. So that's just my disclaimer. I did personally go around today to all of the houses in that immediate vicinity, like completely around, not just where it's located on this map. I went to all the houses with Thea Lee, another council member, and 2 members of the city manager's staff, Peter and Regan, who are actually just people that are working hard to try to find a housing solution. The real challenge that we're having is the housing solution lies with the county, not the city. But my problem is the county is the one that just closed those temporary housing with the people at all those other facilities. So if they're not housing people, the city says it's them, and we're stuck in the middle of like just fucking regular people in a community. I don't know what to do, you know, I mean, but what I thought I could do is tell every single person that it's going to affect around there what's happening. Because if you know ahead of time, I mean, it gives you a little bit of preparation. Like you don't have misinformation. You don't have like, oh shit, here we go. We got another housing, you know, tent city or something like that. So, I mean, that's just my spiel about this. I only am involved in this because negativity will keep people from getting off the street. In the long run, with the hard work and that Ian's doing with getting sanitary housing, like we may be able to make a model for the rest of the city to at least hope to use. Because everything, go ahead, Brad, I'm sorry. I'm just spouting on.
You know, I don't oppose putting people there. In fact, I don't oppose putting a lot of people there if it's done well, which I don't think this will be. But when you said, you know, the county is responsible for it and the county is closing its camp, it's all true. The city is also closing the camps it opened.
I know.
On the south side of the city, and that's where these people are coming from. And so there's again, they're just creating this unnecessary distrust that city staff lives on the south side. They want to make sure they don't have camps on the south side, so they're putting them in the Whitaker, and that's very frustrating.
It is, Brad. I know. And, you know, that's what I leveled it with them today. I said, if you look at it like this, you're bringing more homeless people into the Whitaker, you know? But when I start talking about and say the words homeless people, they are real individual human beings. And I can't look at them as just a number of people. You know, if our lives are in the balance by us deciding if 6 people can live in a park, God, man, let them live in the park. But I just want to. I don't know what to say about it. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's horrible. It really is. Hold on, Jennifer, 1 second. Anand, you had a question earlier. I'm sorry.
One of the ideas that's come out of the Black Lives Matter protests has been reallocating city funds to create housing. I have sent an invitation to the NAACP to come to the next Whitaker Public Health and Safety Committee. I haven't gotten a response yet, but hopefully somebody can show up. It might have been not enough time. It's only a week away, but it would be very interesting to get some direct input as to how we could actually be of assistance. But hey, there's definitely a common denominator in terms of insufficient low-income housing. So there's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
No. Jennifer?
Or
I'm sorry, Katie.
Go ahead.
Katie, I'm sorry. You had your hand up earlier. I forgot. I didn't see it.
Forever.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Jennifer, hold on one second. Katie.
Sorry, Richard, can you hold that for a second?
I am so sorry, Katie.
That's okay. I've got my noisy neighbor here. I just wanted to say that community supported shelter they know what they're doing. They have an excellent track record, and they have a great reputation. And so I think this is a win-win situation. I know it didn't work out for us to kind of step forward with the model we had, but I can be nothing but very happy about them managing this site and taking it over. I don't think we'll regret it in any way whatsoever.
Right on.
You know, besides which, the church across the street has several people, homeless people living in their parking lot, so that it's already kind of in that neighborhood.
That's true.
Anyway, that was my 2 cents.
And I agree with you. Jennifer, and then Ian.
So where is that location that you're speaking of?
So Jennifer, are you able to see the screen that Ian's sharing with you?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Okay. So
Yes,
if you go towards the river.
Uh-huh. Is that the one area that's read out?
Yes, ma'am. It's right next to the Skinner farm. So there's the community farms or the community garden beds, and it's to the left of that. There's a gentleman, his name is Jan. He owns Cat. At one point, there was a master plan to have a grain and hops grown there. And it was, Brad, it was about 10 years ago. Is that?
It was fruit trees.
Fruit trees?
They developed a master plan back when they developed Skinner City Farm. And I didn't find out about it till about 10 or 12 years ago when they were expanding the Whitaker community farm, community garden. But as far as I know, the master plan is still in place, and everybody's just kind of looking away from the fact that this does not fit into it. And I think that's perfectly appropriate, actually.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, from the conversation that I had today, Jan has still not been confirmed as being contacted.
Yeah.
So that's a little disheartening. Ian, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something from Katie. So a woman named Sunshine manages the property at the church across the street, and she's the one who owns the trailer infrastructure. So I don't think that she nor anyone else on the property is unhoused. I spoke with them when we were doing outreach for the Whitaker Community Art Team Free Wall project. So, she's a private person, but they're living there with permission from the landlord.
Jerry Lynn.
I beg your pardon?
Jerry Lynn.
Jerry Lynn?
Yeah.
Okay. They introduced me as Sunshine, so. Yeah, just wanted to give Katie a heads up about that.
Yeah, she actually came to our meeting a while back. They were trying to use that property, the church, to be a community center, and I just think the funding sources kind of dried up. But sorry, Ian, go ahead. Was that you didn't have? Oh, you're just clarifying. Okay, sorry. Steven, hello. I'm gonna unmute you. Maybe.
Really? Yeah, I just unmuted myself. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to really read the document that was shared on the screen share. It does the place next to the garden there. Will it have a fence around it?
Yes. So today we went over and we were trying to identify a site right behind where the and you know what I'll do is we'll be able to share this document with everyone. I got it as a PDF, and forgive me, I was going to put it on the Whitaker page, but we'll do that soon. So that site does have a fence around it already. It needs some significant infrastructure, i.e. gravel paths and probably some sort of scaping that's going to go on. But Thea and Brad yesterday had identified the site directly behind it, which is already graveled, and it's owned by the city. I think it's whatever the name of Flowers. It's a roundabout, but if that was used in the interim before the site was actually developed, it would make the infrastructure a lot easier, because what I'm hoping is, as a community, we can, go in, talk to them about, how things are going to get set up so it's not like completely gravel, and then try to distinguish, because this site is capable of hosting 20 people, if possible, at least, at 10 feet apart. I mean, there's a way that we could calculate how we could keep people apart, at least during this time. But there is also, there's some communal aspects of it, such as a cooking area. And then potentially in the future, I don't know what they're going to do about showering, but that's something that's being worked on. So 6 sites right now that will eventually go in the grassy area. But like I said, until they get the Conestoga huts in, we identified that site, and they were contacting Public Works, the Parks Department, to see if that was available. So, I mean, there's going to be some gravel in all of that grass, basically. But we wanted to make sure it's only for a year. We want to make sure that if there's a funding source or if there's a way to increase the housing there, that we're going to be able to do it, because it's a field, it's not a parking lot. It's going to be challenging. I mean, it really is, but it's property that's identified by the city. So, Margaret,
It's a half a square block, pretty much, is what it looks like on the map.
pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's a significant amount of area. I mean,
yeah, it looks large.
Yeah, and there's a lot of pluses and minuses about it. Having things located in the park was never our intention in that aspect. We want park space to be used, but maybe in a different way. We had proposed behind the gate at Scoburg Gardens. So if this space is available, I mean, who knows? The problem I have is and Ian might be able to give us more information, because Ian, like at this point, was key in holding them on the line of saying that they don't have funding after this year for this site. So our main focus is to make sure that these people can continue to be housed, so that we're not causing more insecurity in their lives. Anand.
So the property, which is now part of the park, which is just north of there, past that gravel area, used to be part of what was called Child Care Inc., CCI. I've got no problems with that piece of property being used too, because it wasn't initially part of the park anyway. Just so you know.
Nice. And I think my only real concern with this is that the project or 10-year plan that they had, the person who they had developed it with really doesn't know that this is going to go on. I mean, there's been messages sent to him, but no confirmation. So that's kind of a,
So Chris,
Yeah.
Do they have any kind of a timeline when they want to bring those folks in?
They're coming on Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
I found this out yesterday.
Okay. All right.
And I'm really sorry I'm laughing. It's not appropriate. It's just I can be
It's not a funny
frustrated.
laugh. It's a frustrated laugh.
But I can be frustrated, or I can just be like, God damn, the city does it again, you know? But
It's
these are
better than
people's
crying.
lives. These are 6 human beings, you know? So I don't know. We can do better. That's all I'm saying, you know?
What happened to the 35? Remember?
I know.
That's what Chief Skinner told us, 35.
I know. And Margaret, that's what I was saying is we got 6 out of 35. You know, if we can develop the site, we can have it funded. If, you know, working with community support, and that's the thing about our plan of hygienic shelters. We don't want, we could reinvent this whole shit, or we could use community shelters because they've already had this model going. You know, we want to support them because, dude, they're really helping this community. They're helping a lot of different communities. If anyone has a chance to volunteer, they have a site on West 11th, and periodically they build huts, and you can go over there and do it. I've done it twice. It's really rewarding. It's pretty cool because, you know, your little bit of time that you take is going to house somebody. So something to think about. But I will make that PDF available for everyone about that site. And I just wanted to move along, unless anyone has any more questions about it.
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead, Cliff.
I was thinking, now it's been a while, but when I visited the mission out there, there was a lot full of available, how do you pronounce it, Conestoga huts. Would they be available for you to move on to that property at all, or do you know?
What we have done is we have reached out to Cheryl, and we have also dialogued with the people that we walked around with today, Regan and Peter from the city, to reach out to Cheryl also, because I think our model about, I mean, we're trying to like encourage clean and sober behavior within the lots that are going to be run. I think that's going to coincide with what Cheryl at the mission is with too, because before I think the hesitation was we didn't want to bring a model in that allowed something that they were not allowing at the mission. So at this moment, she's not working with the city to house any more people, but she does have some other housing that's going on over there. And
she has lots of property too, right?
And she has tons of property. That's what we talked about today. I'm just being honest. I'm trying to think of the most polite, PC, like professional way of saying all of this, because the city and the mission need to work together, because we can do something together. All of this bullshit about all of us trying to do separate things, it's not working. I mean, look around. There's 50 freaking tents in the park. There's people all over the place that are in house. We just had to get rid of the porta potties today, which is really detrimental to our community. But
great job on that, by the way, Chris.
Dude, it was so nuts. I mean,
yeah,
we couldn't do anything else. You know, we just, I don't know. But yeah, Cliff, we are actually dialoguing with her. Thea Lee is in contact with Cheryl. So we are trying to have a meeting with the city, Cheryl, and community supported shelters to get more people housed. But at this moment, we don't, you know, I mean, plus here's the other thing too, is it's really difficult to do anything with COVID right now. Me going around with these people in neighborhoods, knocking on people's doors, kind of made people feel a little uncomfortable. I mean, masked up, people handing out flyers. I mean, it's really challenging. So just to think of trying to house new people over at the mission right now who are already housing people,
My impression
and bring other vectors in that can potentially. So, I mean, these are the things that we have to be wary of too when people are making these adult decisions, that it's unsafe, you know? And just to be honest with you, the bathrooms that we were providing, or the space for, or at least letting the city know where to be because we weren't paying for it, were completely unsafe. It became a really challenging place, and it was just not sustainable. But all right, enough of that. Unless anyone has anything more, Travis, actually, go ahead.
So we're losing the 2 porta potties, right? And I agree that they did not turn out well. They worked for a while, and they got abused over time. Is there have we thought about maybe just moving them to a different location to where they're more convenient for people who are utilizing the community versus just hanging out in Fifth Alley?
Yeah.
Like, because I had this conversation last night with a person who works at a local business, and they were thankful for the porta potty that was in that parking lot because it meant that there were less people defecating in their alleyway behind their business. And I was like, well, maybe we should figure out a way to move that to where it's not a hindrance, but still available, because there's still businesses that are open but don't have bathrooms to use.
Yeah,
Travis,
I completely agree. And
I was thinking maybe we could relocate one of those to the Red Barn parking lot or that area, because I've noticed that hand washing station has been defunct for a while. And I understand that we're paying for it, but they're not being maintained like they should be.
That's because they ripped the soap container off the outside.
Yeah.
It's because they steal because they're stealing the disinfectant the minute that you put it on there.
True. Well, Katie and then Brad. Katie?
Well, we're not paying for any of that, are we?
No, we are not.
But I don't understand why the city never maintained those. I thought it was the city asking us where they could put bathrooms.
Exactly. And that's what my initial question was. Why are we having all of these problems? I mean, the fecal matter had reached the seat.
Right.
You know,
literally.
Okay.
Like literally. Yeah. The amount of needles that were in there and the fecal matter all over there made it absolutely disgusting. When I was over there today, the lady at the gas station alerts people to only use that bathroom at their own risk. That's how, I know, that's how it got. Brad.
Well, and then my other concern was that I didn't see how we could ask local businesses again to support our payments for that parking lot if it would look like a pile of shit and their customers weren't about to park there. So
exactly. And on that note, I did send a message to Steve, like we were talking about, to see if he could take over that parking lot, like completely, and get us out of the parking lot business. Because what I noticed is it is pretty much Tacovore and all of the businesses that he runs. And I think it would be advantageous for him to have that instead of us, because, you know, I mean, we have other things we can focus on.
Right.
You know. And Brad, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to address what Travis said. A few months ago, when the epicenter of the pandemic was Wuhan, they actually did some work, and I can't in good conscience support putting porta potties anywhere at this point in time as our COVID cases rise, because the highest concentration of aerosolized virus that they found in Wuhan, they found in porta potties. And it's just not a good idea to put those out during the pandemic. We need to actually enter the late 19th century and go with, you know, like indoor toilets. Yeah.
Let people shit in the alleys. That's what's going to happen.
I mean, it's going to be alleys because
from a COVID standpoint, Katie, I hate to say it, but you're better off having shit in the alley than having a poorly ventilated porta potty someone's going to go into. You're less likely to infect somebody. And I know that's like what an
Unless they're
awful
crapping
situation,
on
but
your
that's where the
property
virology's at.
and you're cleaning it up.
If it's cleaned up, yeah. Is the city gonna replace porta potties with actually going through the alleyways and cleaning them up on a regular basis? I don't think so.
I've spent a
It's not
fortune
gonna
cleaning
happen.
it.
Yeah, it's
You know,
That's
no,
what's
the,
needed.
the only bathroom situation that I've seen that really works, and you know, and it's one of those things, I kind of talk things as I think about them, but when we had our station at Monroe Street, we would have people come in to use our bathroom, and we would usually take their backpack, you know, leave it behind the counter, check the bathroom before they went in, and check the bathroom when they went out. And it's almost like we need to have somebody, or you know, and maybe there's a city office somewhere, you know, whatever, whoever the receptionist is, but that's the only thing I've ever seen that really works. Because we actually, at our station, we had put a porta potty, and we, you know, we had 2 different vendors on and on, and it just didn't work.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the closed structure, but we have to have a place for people to use a restroom. We have a community that has businesses where people are walking to, hopefully, or using public transportation. They need to use the bathroom. And if you're
Absolutely.
going into an establishment to go buy food and you can't use a restroom when you need to use the restroom, what are you gonna do? You know, they just tell you, they'll just yell at you and say, "Don't pee in my parking lot." Okay, well, there's an alley around the corner. I don't know.
Ian and Cliff?
Yeah, a long time ago, I proposed that all the city's parks build a real professional, regular restroom like you see along the highway rest stops of that nature, made of ordinary materials and so not super strength or anything like that, because and in conjunction with that, they would hire a full-time caretaker they would between the park and the restroom as well, to keep it up. But that's the key. San Francisco had that in every single park in the city, and of course they abandoned them, and they're just cement poured, remnants that still stand there. But it's something I was hoping to bring back. And maintenance would cure the problem of the abuse, and at least immediately alert a repair crew to get the thing fixed quickly.
Yeah, I agree,
anyway.
Cliff. Maybe at some point we could get some public works people in here or parks
That'd
people
be really
to talk
cool.
about it. Yeah, Ian, and then Dan,
I just wanted to
and then
kind of,
Anand. Sorry.
reiterate the tremendous opportunity that community-supported shelters brings with their site. I think we could really leverage their partnership with the city to our advantage and use them as momentum for sanitary housing. As someone that could be a contractor with a WCC for sanitary housing outside of the site that they have on Washington, I mean, they know Chris from his volunteering there. And I think that if we kind of marshaled some sweat equity and helped build the actual Conestoga huts themselves, I mean, I'm shitty with my hands, but, I'm totally willing to hold a hammer and nail in some nails. I think that it would speak a lot to Eric, and Eric, the executive director, was excited about the placement of the free wall because he's a former graffiti artist. So I'd hope that Dubcat could partner with them and be able to do some art projects on the free wall because of the proximity of the wall to the future site of those 6 folks.
We could do it in a day. We could put 6 together in a day. Just to be honest. Dan, and then Anand.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of echo what Cliff was saying. I mean, and kind of expand on that a little bit. I mean, we're essentially talking about a project and a responsibility that is really greater than than any one of us or even a group of us to do. It's really the city's responsibility, and we're trying to create a volunteer, almost a volunteer fire department do what the city should be doing already. So, Kitty, I happened to mention online about kind of using some of her kind of brand power to kind of move this along, just to stick that or keep the porta potties there. Have we reached out to her to find out exactly what kind of plan she's envisioning?
Yes, I did send her a message. So I do want to use her quote unquote street cred too. I did respond to that message. So I will get back to everyone about what we can do. And that's another thing too, is like all of this information, I want to be as transparent as possible and as upfront as possible about it, because the more help that we get and the more information that we have between us, it creates more of a cohesive unit. And I think that's the only way that this is going to work. So Dan, yeah, I will also keep you involved, because as a business owner, you are very important to us with pushing some of this sanitary housing.
I have one last follow-up I was hoping you could help me out with. So I've been noticing over by our business a lot of, I'm assuming that, just by I'm not going to go into gross details, but it's clearly that there are feminine napkins that are being kind of makeshift made, like a homemade or kind of jerry rigged to a certain degree. Is there a process by which we can add that to our list besides just the porta potties, to either hand them out or have them available so that folks don't feel like they have to need to do that?
Dude, yes.
That's a public health issue.
It's an enormous public health issue. We're talking about
huge.
The previous people were talking about, and I'm sorry, I'm horrible with names, but the other gentleman was talking about COVID exposure. But you're talking about bloodborne pathogens. My whole family grew up in the medical field. I would get off from school in grade school and go hang out in the ER all until my parents got off of work. And bloodborne pathogens are a nightmare. And they're on the ground. They're everywhere. And I get that if you don't have the other option, what else are you going to do? It's a bodily function. It's human nature. But our female unhoused folks shouldn't have to feel, I would imagine, fairly degraded to have to makeshift create something like that instead of a porta potty. That is not even borderline unhuman. It is unhuman. So there's got to be a solution here that we can either fund.
Yeah,
it is absolutely third world country shit. So either we start a small fund for it, find some people who can put together.
What about women's space?
Talking about. Yeah,
I'm just throwing this out there. Forgive me. I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm appalled.
No,
this is not something that is on my radar right now. And
I wonder if the mission was helping with that when they were serving meals.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think Whitebird would be about going, please.
Yeah.
Brad?
I bet Bruns would donate.
Okay.
But like I said, donations are great. The problem is that, from my perspective, and I don't want to occupy the conversation, unless there is an organized effort by the city, you're never going to have enough on a regular basis. People just kind of ebb and flow. They have their own lives, there are things that they're doing, and the real life body people, human beings on the street, don't ebb and flow with them. They don't take a day off if somebody here needs to take a day off. This needs to be something that the city or the county says, that we've reached the peak of allowing this to just exist. We're going to fund this. This is just going to be a regular thing. So if we're going to drop off a porta potty, there's going to be a dispenser for hygiene products. That's just what's going to be there. And we make that a requirement. It's insane that it isn't.
Sanitation.
Yeah.
That's us. Yeah. Jennifer, but Anand, did you have something to go along with this?
Two things. One that's with it and one that's separate but related. So I'll ask around. I work over at Lane County Public Health, and it's almost all women there. So they may have some ideas as to what might be effective. The other thing, getting back to the porta potties, just briefly, each of those is rated for a certain number of people to use them before they need to be emptied. I'm kind of wondering whether or not they could be set up with a counter on the door, so that every time the door opens and closes, you know somebody's been in it, or some way to find out. Because if the city's setting those up and it's being used for far more people than they're rated at, they're breaking the law by not actually making sure they're being cleaned. That's OSHA.
I second that.
That's federal. I mean, they could get in trouble for that.
I agree. But you know, I mean, what do we do? You know, who do we call?
Sue them.
Jennifer, did you have something?
I guess I just want to say the same thing. The city puts up the porta potties, and then that's it. They didn't take the responsibility of sanitation. And they didn't commit. So we got to get them to commit, for one thing. And the other part is, has it been successful in other areas with the porta potties, or is it unique to Whitaker?
And maybe Brad knows about the one down by the bike path.
Yeah.
No?
Thea told me the one that's on the bike path is being removed forthwith, so I haven't even looked today.
Yeah, and just to go along with that, the reason these porta potties showed up was an emergency COVID designation. The funding for that is running out.
Maybe it ran out.
I was going to say it's running out now. And it's horrible to say that, though. But, you know, they are supposedly, and Brad may be able to check with us, opening up all of the public bathrooms.
I think that's true. I heard that too.
So
yeah, the ones I've seen are open now.
Yeah.
Hold on, Travis. Jennifer, did we answer your question?
Yeah, I did see that today that they had opened up the bathrooms at the park.
Yeah, I was just wondering also. Travis?
One of my other things that I just recently was aware of, because my housemates were out handing out sandwiches to homeless individuals, and most of everybody was like, "There's no water." Did you get work done? Water. And so there's no public fountains. And I think public fountains are probably going to go away because of the COVID thing. And you can't really have like a public fountain thing. But we should have water filling stations like in our neighborhood that's available for people to fill up water. That's not foot pump.
I agree.
As in full on infrastructure for people, because water is it's a necessity for people.
Absolutely.
You know, the fact that we have people who are living out there in such horrid conditions and they can't get water.
What if we ask Bruns or Red Apple? I mean, they rent water stations. Let's not forget this. I think this is a great idea. I mean, you know, if we can't do bathrooms right now, let's focus on that too, because water is essential to life.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Who else had their hand up? And I'm sorry if I forgot. Okay. Well, we have a few more things going on. Ian, Stephen, did you have a question? Okay. Ian, did you have some things that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I wanted to bring two motions to the board for a vote. So the WCC, for those of us who are joining for the first time, is a 501c3 nonprofit with the state of Oregon and the federal government. So we operate with a board of directors. Chris is our chair. Katie is our treasurer. Annika is the secretary. And we normally have elections twice a year, but because of COVID, we've pushed our normal elections off towards the time when we can have a public vote in person again. And we'll sometimes bring items to the board for the vote. So while community members can participate in meetings, The votes are only for members of the board like Chris, myself, Travis, Brad, Anand, and Katie. So tonight I wanted to bring 2 items to the board for a vote. I'll share what they are on my screen. So the first one I'm bringing from the Whitaker Community Art Team, and it's a request for a motion and discussion on executing a memorandum of understanding between the WCC and the City of Eugene's Cultural Services Division of the Department of Library, Recreation, and Cultural Services. So the city has funded a project that WCAT proposed, or I should say something else. The city has tentatively agreed to fund a project that WCAT proposed for a temporary art installation called Reflection Space Eugene. The temporary installation that we proposed is a phone booth. It's a kind of like a British red telephone box phone booth that allows people to reflect inside. So they call a phone number and they reflect on the world we're living in right now. And we're asking them through the installation to imagine the world they want to live in 2 years from now. And so we're going to be putting this temporary installation in the Whitaker and different neighborhoods around Eugene in conjunction with 4 other art groups if the board votes in favor of the MOU tonight. And then over the next couple of weeks, we would build the project. So tonight, what we're asking the board to do is to approve the MOU between the WCC and the City of Eugene Cultural Services Division. What the MOU is asking for is that we manage project development, including physical and virtual locations of the exhibition, that we open it between July 1st and January 1st of this year, next year, that we respect public and privately owned spaces, that we provide the public arts manager, Kate, with an exhibition statement and dates, desired location, community outreach plan by July 15th. And at the earliest date possible, we provide Kate with high quality images of the artwork, that we invite Eugene visual arts entities and artists to join the exhibition team as working partners, that we provide the arts organization contact for the project coordinator, which in this case would be me. And these next ones, the MOU signed and completed by June 10th. I told them we weren't going to be able to do that because we needed the board to vote on it. And that we provide them a project invoice, which includes an invoice number, city assigned purchase order to the City of Eugene by June 12th. I also told them like, we need board approval first. I can share with you the project proposal that we did. It was based on a couple of different previous art projects. So in Japan, after the earthquake and tsunami, there was a town of Otsutuchi that created this phone booth for people who were grieving their loved ones. So we wanted to create something similar here in the Whitaker that would be inspiring, that would get people to like make a call for our future in the phone booth, but we wanted to make it compliant with COVID. So we're going to install hand sanitizer inside the phone booth and make it so that people can access it virtually. So they can call the line if they want to from their home instead of actually going to the physical location. So tonight we're asking for the board to vote in favor of us moving forward with the MOU. And then they would reach out directly to Chris as the board chair and to Katie as the board treasurer as the 2 signatories for the WCC. So my motion is that we recommend discussion on executing an MOU between the WCC and the City of Eugene, and we ask for a vote from the board.
I second the motion.
Thanks, Travis. Does anyone want to talk more about it or ask any questions about the proposed exhibition before we vote? Jennifer, I see your hand up, but I think you're muted.
Yes. I did remember that you said there would be a call. You can call it in from your home. Will that be part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we wanted to be respectful for people who are immunocompromised or may be in vulnerable age groups or vulnerable populations. So we haven't decided on what it's going to be yet, but we imagine it'll be like a video or a virtual reality experience where people can kind of go into the booth and then call the phone number. So the phone number is going to be like a Google Voice number or another service where people can call in and leave a message. So you'll be able to do that from your home.
Thank you.
I'm worried about if we take all the porta potties away, what could happen in a phone booth.
Good point.
Oh, God.
Uh,
I love the idea of doing this.
So are we voting?
we could make it
Yeah,
that
if,
week,
I
Brian.
second the motion.
yeah.
So it's up to vote.
Anyone opposed? Okay, I guess it
Cool.
passes.
So Chris and Katie, I'll reach out to you both via email, and then you'll be receiving a note either from Carrie, Kate, or Jessica Watson from the city of Eugene, and it'll be like a Adobe PDF, and so it's really easy. But they'll send you an email, and it'll be like click here to sign. So the second motion I have is on streeteries. So we now have the ability to apply for a program where we can open up public right-of-way to businesses around the city so that people can socially distance and eat. It's a way to open up more square footage to businesses because the phase 2 guidelines allow for a certain amount of social distancing between people. So my motion tonight is for discussion on and a vote from the board to secure a permit for the section of Van Buren from Blair Boulevard to 3rd Avenue during the summer of 2020 so that we could have in a coordinated way Red Barn, Meiji, Slice, and Grit all use that section of the street for open air dining during the summer of 2020. Chris let me know that both Meiji and Grit have reached out to the city, but I think there's an opportunity for us to play a role as like a hub coordinator so that we can have multiple restaurants benefit from this. And maybe, I see Chris has something.
I was gonna say, one thing, you should change Ian Winbrock, you're really cool, but to put it as Whitaker Community Council. And then the other thing is I would like to make sure that the businesses are not already doing this, because my communication, like, and I might not have shared it with you, from Ashley at Grit, was that Joel from Meiji had already talked to someone from the city. And I don't know if we've never even been contacted from this person. And I don't want to start working on, good night, Margaret. I don't want to start working on something if they're already doing it. You know what I mean? So instead of, and this is up to the board too, I would like to hold this off until I talk to, I'll do it tomorrow, but I'll go to Meiji and talk to Joel. And then I have a meeting with Ashley just to figure it out, because I was on the same thing as you. Brad had proposed it like 2 months ago, and I just don't want to like have to do the same thing. You know what I mean? If they're already working on it, or go through. Brad, go ahead.
Well, two things. First of all, if you only go to Blair and Van Buren and you leave the alleyway open, which actually Red Barn wants open, and that's the only access to the apartments behind them, you actually don't border Red Barn, so they're not really included in that triangle. So you might just remove them from it.
That makes sense. Yeah, you move it back.
Yeah. The other thing, addressing what Chris said, I think we should go ahead anyway to create a sense with the city, even if Ashley's already doing it or Media's already doing it, create a sense for the city. We want the whole street, and that's where I would amend Ian's thing to, we want that whole street closed from Blair to 3rd, because otherwise you can't effectively do this. If you just take the parking spaces, I'm stuck with, if I'm walking there, I'm walking in the middle of
In the
somebody's
middle of the
table,
street.
or I'm
Yeah.
walking in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
I think we need to ask for the whole street for these businesses.
Yeah.
And years ago, I asked OLCC, and they said they're cool with serving alcohol out there if the businesses are doing seating. So
I agree. I agree. Go ahead, Steve.
I don't
Dave.
understand your boundary. I don't understand the boundary when you talk about from Blair to Third. From Second to Third on Blair or on Van Buren?
Van Buren.
Can everyone see the map now?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like a visual person.
Thank you.
It's hard for me to.
Yeah, I was looking at my phone map.
Brad, would you mind kind of repeating yourself? So here's Blair. What's your proposal, Brad?
My proposal is we close Van Buren from West Third to Blair so that it can all be either the seating runs from the sidewalk out through the parking area and you walk down the middle, or they move the seating to the middle of the damn road. You still have the sidewalks to walk down. I don't care which, but close the whole thing to traffic.
So you're talking about, it should actually be West Third to West Third Alley?
No,
Yes.
well,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
actually, the West
On
Third
Van
Alley is
Buren.
also at the junction of Van Buren and Blair. So they're
So
Right.
all
north
together.
West Third Alley. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
guess that would be north, wouldn't it?
I always imagined it actually being here. So you can, I don't know if you can have a pen on Google Maps, but like, you know,
Use the
this is where-
crosswalk.
yeah, where
Yeah.
Jesus sits, Chris,
Yeah.
you know, like you would have this whole area here, you know?
But West Third Alley would, like Brad was saying, they wouldn't be able to get into their homes through there. Because these apartments that are all, I'm moving my cursor like you can see it.
You would though, because if you close this off, you could still go around West 4th to Jackson to go in the alley this way.
It's a one-way alley.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it goes the other way. It would be awesome if it was though. Oh man. Yeah, it is. It is a one-way alley. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely all for this. I don't want to continue, like, if those businesses are already doing it, I just want to like have them be involved with what we're proposing. You know, instead of us proposing it and being like, hey, what do you guys think? You know, I mean, Ashley. Oh, go ahead, Stephen. I'm sorry.
If the Whitaker Community Council is the permit holder for the space, what are the liability issues?
Good question. We would have to, you know, there would be liability issues if there was alcohol that was being served on the street. We would theoretically have to have a beer garden that was created there.
That's not what OLCC said.
So do you think that they're going to waive the rules for beer gardens to be able to put in the streets?
OLCC said, when I talked to them like 3 years ago about this, they said, you know, like if Meiji wants to serve in the street and the city closes the street for that, it'll just be on Meiji's liquor license, and they're good with that. They didn't have any problems at all. They didn't say we had to do anything.
And that's why I think we should include the businesses. They're the ones that are going to be the stakeholders in it. I mean, you know, Ian, I think it's, go ahead, Travis. Hold on, hold on. There you
All
right.
Yeah, I think we should get the business community together, and I can talk to Blair Alley because that's in Blair Alley's thing. And hopefully, we're going to be opening up within a week or so. Hopefully, and so we may be looking to expand, if this is a possibility, into the side of wherever, you know. But I would like to, yeah, we should organize a meeting with the business community. I think we should try to facilitate that as a community.
Okay. I think one of the things, you know, as a board, Ian's put this motion together. do we want to move forward with this, or should we do a little recon first? Move forward, Brad. I see you nodding.
Yeah, I think we can do.
I'll motion to move forward on it through.
We can
like,
walk and chew
just
gum at the same time. I think we can.
investigate.
I think we can meet with the business community and we can work with the city to get the process rolling forward as one big triangle there.
Right.
Because there's going to be a hang up somewhere.
Ian.
And Chris, can I propose an amendment to the motion that we vote on first engaging the business community before reaching out to the city's business development team to secure a permit? Because it may be that you need to be a business to secure a permit, but I think that we could reach out to them and say, hey, we're interested in facilitating this. Do you need to be a business to secure a permit to do it? Because if that's the case, then
they may have a better idea of where they want to open space up.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an ideal space, and I think that Brad, and Ian, we thought this, or Brad thought of it like 2 months ago, but it is an ideal space for those three businesses. Ian, one thing that I could do if we wanted to hold off on this or in any way, shape, or form, I can go and talk to Joel tomorrow. I'm meeting with Ashley already, either via phone, Zoom, or whatever. And then I can go talk to Josh again, just to make sure that I have, like, because, he has his backspace, but what everyone, and just so that everyone knows or can fill us in, like you're saying. But I have time to do that tomorrow. Just to throw that out there.
Sure. So I guess I would amend the motion that we not move forward with securing a permit from the city until we do outreach to the three business owners now of Slice, Grit, and Meiji.
And we can also use this occasion to say that we can vote by email. So if I am successful in accomplishing what we were thinking we want to move forward with, I will send this information to Ian tomorrow. He will send this out. We can vote by email if everyone's comfortable with that. It is within our charter too. So just so that we don't have to wait until next Wednesday, because all of these things are important. And I think that, as a board, I'm just going to be transparent with people that aren't on the board. We're going to need to start using our email power. I mean, even meeting once a week is not fast enough to get things done that we're trying to do. And I think sanitary housing is one of those things that I wish that we could have gotten done a little bit sooner. But so Ian, I'm sorry, back to you. I was just.
Yeah, no, I'm comfortable with that. So I'll table the vote and then wait for Chris to do the outreach, and then I'll reach out to everyone via Facebook or email for an electronic vote.
Is that okay with all board members?
Okay. Yeah, I just have one thing to add. Meanwhile, back at the farm, Thea is interacting with the people at Territorial Wines, because there's an interest by the owner that maybe that troublesome little spur on their east side, the end of Adams, that they'd like the same kind of deal. But that's got the complication with eWeb and stuff. But
yeah, and just to talk more on that, one, it's on my street. The only people that park there are the ones that go to that business or that are houseless, and we're using the services that we provided. So yeah, essentially that it's a dead street. If Territorial were to take that over, other than eWeb, the access would need to be limited. So yeah, that's something I'm hoping in the future we can maybe get behind, because I'm hoping the businesses are going to spearhead wanting to do these things, and we as a community can support them instead of us being proactive for them. Because, I mean, I'm not getting a free bottle of wine just to cut their street off, just being honest, just being silly. I don't want a free bottle of wine. I want a case,
somebody works there,
don't think they like me though. So Ian, is it okay? We'll table this until tomorrow, and what we can do is everyone on the board will get an email in regards to if I was unable to meet with someone, I want to make sure that I let everyone know so it doesn't seem as if we're letting this lag, because this is something important right now. If we're going to have some restaurants opening up, let's give them some space. Let's figure out a way where they can make some money, but it can be in a safe environment. Take the streets over. Next, we're going to take over 6 blocks, just like they're doing in Seattle. That's the next topic of discussion. Just kidding.
Sounds good to me.
Just kidding. Oh man, could you imagine if we took the Whitaker over? Awesome. Rent would be free.
Takes the mass movement.
With me taxing authority.
Oh man, no. So Ian, I'm sorry, I was just being silly.
No, that sounds good to me. Thanks for reaching out to those folks, Chris.
Yeah, no problem. I'm possibly going to go and talk to some more people in that neighborhood. I did complete a huge loop, but I wanted to make sure that I got all of the houses and then all the apartments. Adon.
It's 9 o'clock.
Oh, the magic hour.
Sorry.
Anyone? Do you have anything else that we could possibly talk about tonight before we bid you adieu? I really appreciate everyone's time. Jennifer, of course, come on.
It doesn't have to be done tonight, but I sure would like to know how to get everybody on the screen.
Gotcha.
If that is,
After everyone goes away, you and I are going to talk, and I'm going to hook you up.
Really?
Yep.
Nighty night.
Good night, y'all. So Jennifer, don't click out.
Okay.
All right. Good night, y'all. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
So, Jennifer, let's see. So on your screen, I'm looking at my screen, and let me see. Let me just make you. Okay.
Does it make a difference if it's a Mac or a PC?
Are you on a Mac?
Yes.
Okay. So on your screen, do you have a place where it says mute? And then it says it has 3 dots?
No 3 dots.
Okay. So up into the right of the top of the screen, do you have something that says exit full screen mode and then one that says speaker view?
I have the exit full screen and I have gallery view.
Okay, so go to gallery view and hit that.
Okay.
So it's just you and me right now.
Right,
but in gallery view, that is going to show you as many people on the screen as you can handle.
Okay.
So, and then there's other ways you could have speaker view, and then gallery view. And then in gallery view, there's also a way when you have like 19 people, you can drag it so it covers up more of your screen. Just because it'll have more people on there. I mean, we had more people tonight than we ever have, so it made it a little challenging.
Yeah, that was
kind of cool though.
Yes, and it was a good session.
It really was, and thank you so much for being there. But yeah, I'm more than happy to help you in any way.
Thank you kindly. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Leave.